If you've watched any of my streams, then you probably know that I have a strong distaste for backseat gaming. Don't get me wrong, I know that people are just trying to be helpful, but the way that I think about it is that if I'm playing a strategy game, the majority of the gameplay is the decisions I'm making. So if chat is the one making decisions for me, then I'm not really playing the game, am I? If anything, getting advice and movements from chat feels more like chat is playing the game using me as a proxy. Although for as often as I complain about it, it doesn't seem to dissuade people. I still get a couple of backseat gamers in just about every single stream that I do. So I figured, what the heck, let's cut out the middleman. If chat wants to play the game so badly, let's let them. And so I went to fellow YouTuber Doug's website and downloaded the code that he made to allow Twitch chat to play video games. Adjusted it to work for the more fine level of control required for Fire Emblem, and fixed the errors that Doug had left in the code. And after a few test streams to ensure that everything controlled how I wanted to, I let my community loose on the easiest campaign in Fire Emblem history, Lynn Hard mode. For anyone who's wondering why I chose Lynn Hard instead of Lynn Normal, the two campaigns are actually functionally identical when it comes to map design and enemy stats. The only difference between them is that Lynn Normal gives you a couple of tutorials where it railroads you into making specific actions, and any time that you try to deviate from them, it resets to the beginning. Since the Game Boy was being controlled by the equivalent of 100 monkeys slamming on their keyboards, I figured that following Lynn's step-by-step instructions would be expecting a bit too much coordination from chat. Chat began by naming their Tactician VVVVVVV in honor of the indie game that has recently been cancelled for being too woke. We then skipped the opening cutscene and plopped into the prologue map, where the first issue became immediately apparent. Moving a character in Fire Emblem is significantly more complex than in basically any other video game. In a platformer or shooter or RPG, all you have to do is hit the arrow keys and your character moves around the map. And yeah, that's easier to do for a single person than a bunch of chatters mashing on their keyboards, but it is still only one step to get your character moving. In Fire Emblem, you have to highlight the character you want to move, then press the A button, then move the arrow keys to the square you want to move them to, press the A button again, choose an action, and confirm the action, requiring a grand total of 6 steps for every time you want to move even just one unit. And many of these steps require pinpoint precision. The cursor needs to be exactly over the unit you want to select, and the space that you put them on has to be within their movement range. If too many people hit left and Lynn exceeds her max range, then you're not able to confirm your movement. And this is before getting into the fact that at any point during this process, someone could sabotage the whole thing with a single B button press. And as you can expect from any sort of chat play situation, there were plenty of saboteurs happy to do just that. And it certainly didn't help matters that I enabled some controls specifically intended to help the saboteurs cause chaos. R and Start are basically useless when it comes to making progress. Start lets you skip cutscenes, which is a nice time saver, but if chat really wanted, they could just spam the A button instead. And when outside of cutscenes, both Start and R only serve to slow things down. The R button pulls up additional information, which is useful in a vanilla playthrough, but not very helpful for chat plays. Meanwhile, the Start button lets you see the map. And once either the map or the info screen are open, you need to press the B button to exit out before you can take any additional actions. And of course, if multiple people hit B in order to try to exit out of the map screen, then they can risk interfering with their own progress, since B also cancels character movement. With all of these obstacles in the way, chat decided wisely not to advance forward and fight the brigand, but instead take a defensive position in the forest and try to dodge tank him. And this strategy ended up working. It's not really surprising, to be honest. Lynn has very high avoid against the brigand, and I think dodging his attacks is the intended solution to this fight. But unfortunately, standing still isn't going to solve our next problem, that being the boss. Because the iconic Bada the Beast stands on a gate and refuses to leave it for any reason. So, if we want to kill him and beat the map, we need to advance Lynn forward in order to attack. And unfortunately, that's going to require a lot of coordination from chat. I decided that the only way we were going to accomplish this was with me as a coach. So I started giving chat directions, and I came up with a couple of strategies to help Lynn move towards Bata the Beast. The first of these was not to attempt to move Lynn the full 5 tiles. You see, once the cursor leaves the blue tiles Lynn can move onto, you can no longer select any action until you go back onto the blue tiles. So if we tried to move all 5 tiles, we risk someone hitting an arrow key 1 extra time and screwing over our efforts, whether it's intentional sabotage or just unintentional enthusiasm. However, pressing extra arrow keys isn't the only problem, because multiple A presses can put us into a bit of a pickle. So I decided to assign one specific chatter to the role of being our designated A button presser, and nobody else presses A. I also divide the arrow pressers into Z crew and A crew, corresponding to what half of the alphabet their username begins with. I have Z crew hit the left button and A crew hit the up button. That way we don't get too much overlap. And my designated A presser hits A as soon as we get 3 tiles. This actually worked pretty well for a little bit, with us inching our way across the map at the sort of pace that would make an LTCer have an aneurysm. But chat wasn't the only ones getting more organized, because the saboteurs came to realize that the start button and R button were actually traps. You see, pulling up a map or item description was a good way of halting progress, but it did just that, halted things. And any sort of pause is inherently temporary. Eventually someone's gonna hit B, and then we're gonna be back on track to move towards the boss. Similarly, even having our arrow keys move away from the objective was just a temporary setback. But there was something the saboteurs could do to permanently lock us out of beating the map, and that is dropping Lynn's Iron Sword, the only weapon you have in FE7's prologue. And as we made our way towards the gate, the two factions fought it out, with the saboteurs seemingly winning, managing to throw away both of Lynn's vulneraries, and coming quite close to tossing the Iron Sword several times. And that's because, as you might imagine from the internet, the number of people just trying to cause chaos far outnumbered those who were trying to progress towards our goal. And I fully believe that the Chaos Seekers would have succeeded in throwing away the Iron Sword if it weren't for the surprising third faction that popped up around this time. Regular viewers of the channel will recognize Thick Molder as the villain/hero who paid me $2,000 to play Fel Xenologue. And he showed up in the Lynn mode stream too, leveraging his significant influence and charisma towards the most important goal of all, entering the music room of Fire Emblem 7. And of course, as people rally to Molder's cause, this splinters the saboteurs, with half of them trying to discard items and the other half trying to send us back to the menu. And chat is able to take advantage of this division to advance Lynn forward in opposition of these saboteurs. And we actually managed to confront Bata the Beast, at which point Lynn immediately fails to dodge twice in a row and dies. Our second attempt at beating Lynn mode opens with chat immediately throwing away the Iron Sword, so this doesn't last long. Or at least that's what I would like to say, but somehow, immediately after throwing away their weapon, chat gets coordinated enough to move Lynn into the mountains so she can dodge the brigand repeatedly, and anytime she takes damage, they heal her with the vulnerary, extending the length of the map further and further until I'm so bored of watching this happen on loop that I pull up Pokemon Showdown on my phone. I played 2 different rounds of doubles random battles, I won both of them by the way because I'm an epic gamer, and still Lynn was dodge tanking with no end in sight. So I decide to offer them an out. I make a YouTube poll asking whether or not chat thinks I should interfere in order to restart the map, since it's functionally soft-locked. And by and large, they vote for me to interfere. But I leave them there to suffer, as a quiet reminder that I'm not my audience's friend. Parasocial relationships are cringe. Liking and subscribing doesn't make you my friend. Subscribing to my Patreon does. Anyway, I let chat suffer in a hell of their own creation until Lynn finally bit the dust. But at this point, instead of starting a new save file, chat decided to extract their revenge on me, and they deleted all of the save files on my copy of Fire Emblem 7, including the ongoing 0% growth series I was doing with Stigurna. So, yeah, I guess that one's not going up on the second channel. With no file to resume, it looks like the Music Room crew is finally going to get their victory, until chat manages to navigate backwards and start a new save file under Elibe mode of all things. And with chat proving themselves completely incapable of handling Lynn mode, my confidence in them is not exactly high. Now, it's worth noting that both I and my chat have a pretty strong attachment to Rebecca, since she was an all-star in our Code of the Burger King playthrough. But in the Blazing Sword, Rebecca is incredibly frail, and so I worry that chat's strategy of just spamming end turn might not turn out too well for her. Oh, we just end in turn? No! No! Rebecca! No! No! Not like this! Not like this! Chat, Lowen needs to rescue Rebecca. We need to coordinate, have Lowen rescue Rebecca. Rebecca, no! Oh! Oh! Whoa! Whoa! Oh, she dodged! She dodged! She dodged! No, chat! Chat, no! Don't do it! Oh! 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 My fucking heart! Be still, my heart! Be still, my heart! Oh my god! Oh my god! Rebecca! No! Rebecca! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! She's so epic! Oh my god! But as awesome as it was to see Rebecca continuously dodge, not all stories have a happy ending. Oh my god. Who's using start? Can you stop? But we need to see the map though. We need to see the map though. Oh my god, that brigand's on heal AI now. No! Delete the save file again. Anyway, Lowen and Dorcas died too, but who fucking cares? Rebecca's the only unit that matters. But in every tragedy, there is some opportunity, and thus begins the story of Bartree the Bold. In most contexts, FE7 Bartree is pretty disappointing. He's got very low speed and accuracy, to the point where he struggles to double even the low-quality enemies of the Blazing Sword. But within a chat plays context, there is one advantage Bartree can leverage, and that's his starting inventory. Because Bartree is one of only 2 Chapter 11 units that has 1-2 range, and Lowen's Javelin has disadvantage against the axe enemies. So the hand axe is just the best weapon in this context, and also every FE7 context, but that's irrelevant. Normally, starting inventory isn't a big deal because you can just trade them, but considering chat lacks the precision to even move correctly, I think trading is a bit above their pay grade. But if anyone can help chat get more coordinated, it is Le Epic Bartree. Because in addition to having really good matchups against all of the red units, Bartree is somehow able to visit the village and use the Draco Shield to boost his defense by 2. Truly, we are Bartree gaming now. At this point, the stream had been going on for a while, so I decided to leave chat to their own devices while I went to go get lunch. But while I was driving to Panera, something interesting happened to the stream. Because by necessity, people were typing the same message over and over in order to try to control the Game Boy console, YouTube started to flag them as spam bots. And anyone flagged as a spam bot would get a temporary timeout, being unable to send messages and therefore unable to control the video game. As you might expect, the people who were spamming buttons most frequently were the saboteurs. And as a result of this, the viewers trying to make progress were actually able to wrestle control away from both the discard crew and the music room crew. Now, with fewer people typing than ever, was the time for coordinated movements. So what did chat choose to do with this newfound freedom? They did a complete swap of Elibe and Marcus's inventories. So now our Jagan is only holding a rapier he can't use. Yippee! That's okay though, we all know who the real Jagan of Elibe mode is. Bartree and Elibe successfully carved their way through the majority of the rest of the enemies before disaster strikes. Cause chat manages to throw away the hand axe, and there is still an archer alive. Mostly we've been relying on enemy phasing, since that doesn't require as many inputs from our part. But without any two-range weapons, the archer will just pelt away at us until we die, unless we can coordinate and launch an attack. But Bartree never let us down, so we're not gonna disappoint him. So somehow, against all odds, chat is able to coordinate well enough to kill the archer on player phase. And now there is only one enemy left. The boss of Elibe Chapter 11, Goncharov. This looked like the showdown for the ages, because the boss has fort healing. So Bartree is going to have to attack multiple turns in a row, or we risk not being able to take advantage of our weakened foe. But Goncharov isn't the only one who's been weakened. Chat is exhausted. We've exerted so much effort killing scrub-level archers and brigands, and in our weakened state, Mulder goes in for the kill. You're so close! You're so close to erasing the game! Do we want to read a support conversation, chat? We had reached the music room, and it was beautiful. The harmonious tones of chat quickly adjusting between Fire Emblem 7 songs are the sound of victory, the sound of peace, the sound of true happiness. It's a euphoria unlike anything you've ever experienced. And honestly, I can't even describe it. In order to understand, you would have had to have been there. You would have had to have been part of the music room crew. So anyway, yeah, after 5 hours of attempting to beat Chapter 11, chat successfully deleted their save file. Get fucked, Bartree fans! Thank you to Eris, Len, Gameboo, Karosa, Fyrant, Your Doctor, Guiji555, Smaz Ruby, Zycrom, Robin D, Elenby, Hound Dogs, Girl Boss, Lizard Bongwater, Christopher Bueno, Mary McLean, Jaden, Shadow, Bethany, Calamity Callie, Thaythom, Andu, Reflect, A Clever Username of Lies, Jackson McMahon, Electric Giga, Erica Ford, YLO1, George Grenville the 7th PM, Jamie Collins, Thick Mulder, Arvis, Tailored Muffin, Floahay, Faulty Videos, Lyra, Kyle Madison, Derek Williams, Just Riley, Anna Cabana, Some Trades, The Daily Fugel, Faye, Sardonic Muse, Dysike, Ginger, Root Beer Pants, Queen Elizam, Aerith Emblem, Adele, Controlled Aegis, Roman Cormancic, Knick-Knack Hammersmack, SUP, Caius Cole, Heistiklop, Bree, Punch Fighter Champion, Eggman, Maxine the Vampire Queen, Henry Johnson, and especially my Jagan, Shermie's wife, for your support. If you would like to financially support the channel, there is a link to my Patreon below, but please only do so if you can comfortably afford to donate. I don't want anyone going broke over Fire Emblem. Free ways to support the channel include liking and subscribing, but regardless of what you choose to do, I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, gamers.